Hello everybody, my name is Legion and today we are going to be ranking, or in this case, giving a report card on all of the Rebel commanders in the game currently. To kind of introduce this video, we will be doing a new ranking system. I went with report cards, so there's going to be A, B, C, D, and F. How I process the grades is, does this unit improve my chances of winning? Does this unit do its role well? And is this unit cost efficient? So these are the questions I ask myself as I go about essentially giving this report card. And the reason I'm doing this is I've gotten some good feedback from friends, viewers, whoever. And you guys seem to really enjoy the first video, so I'm excited to go further into explaining how I'm going to go about it. Especially for the rest of this series, we're just going to be calling them report card series. We're going to go over all the different commanders, units, etc. But these are the three main questions that I'm asking. So, A is a unit that is the best of the best that can hang with the current meta. So from our first video, Iden would be a great example of a unit that we are going to define as A, because if she's coming across the board something as Blizzard Force, I think that she still has a good variety of lists that she can fit in and play with to compete against a competitive list like Blizzard Force. B, a unit is good and defined as above average. It's probably going to be something more like Palpatine, where I would say he's a little bit better than the middle of the road, and you may even see him winning some major tournaments in the right lists. C is the middle of road average. We're going to see a lot of that in the Rebel faction. It's going to be a good example of units that I think are not bad, but they're not great either. These are going to be units that you can still find success with, but they're not going to give that to you right off the bat. D is a below average and can still find success in some lists. You know, you maybe have a really specific list that a unit works in, and you know, you can kind of amplify that unit, but for the most part, these units are going to be below average. Last but not least, we have F. Play the unit if you like it, but I'm just telling you straight up, I do not think that they are competitively viable. No matter what rank, or in this case, grade, your unit gets, please play them if you enjoy them. That is the point of the game, is to have fun after all. But do know that I am ranking these in case you are wanting to improve your competitive game experience. So that is what we're doing these videos for, and this is going to be how I go about grading the rest of the units in the game. So I'm going to put this at the beginning of the future videos I put out, but this is my thought process. These are the three questions I'm asking. So we'll go back to Iden as the example. Does this unit improve my chances of winning? I think Iden absolutely does that. I think just by putting her card in your list, you have improved your chances of winning. Does this unit do its role well? So I would say Iden's role is, yes, she is trying to be a commander, but she is a really good damage dealer as well. She has great cards that amplify her offense and the offensive units around her with things like her 3-pip. And she can even support units a little bit with her Courage 3 bubble. The last question I'm asking is this unit cost efficient? Just because a unit is super expensive and super good doesn't mean it's cost efficient. What I mean by that is, someone like Palpatine is really good, but for how many points you're paying, I start to question if he's worth that. So yes, you could put Palpatine next to Krennic and you could say, yeah, Palpatine's obviously the better choice, right? Especially if we're comparing them to side by side. But the real thing that we're focusing on is, how much are you paying for it? What else can you fit in your list? What can go with that character to give you a good chance of winning? So, going back here, I would say a good example of something below average, since we're going to be talking about a lot of C tier commanders, would be like Krennic, or not Krennic, Callus. He'd be a good example of something that I consider below average. I'd probably give him like a D- or a D+ maybe. Either way, he's a good example of something I find below average. So those are some of the examples from the first video I would give you, but for the most part, we're just going to jump into it. But I hope you guys enjoyed the new ranking system. It's what I'm going to stick with for the rest of it. So the first unit up is Cassian. He's got Covert Ops, Danger Sense 3, Loadout, Marksman, Tactical 1. 6 health, 2 courage, search to hit, search to defend. You can see he comes with a pistol, but for the most part, many people are going to pay the extra 10 points, and they're going to bring the A2 800, or sorry, A2 80. You can do the sniper config or the pistol config. Sniper config got a buff. You can now shoot and then move with cumbersome, so that is huge, because I definitely think that was the worst part of the sniper rifle. The pistol config with the long shot, reconfigure, Pierce 1, good gun. He's got great plink damage, good hit and run character. With Danger Sense 3, he can really become tricky on defense and kind of surprise you. And then K2 is his buddy. I mean, plain and simple, they kind of want to be together. I don't necessarily think you have to, but for the most part, I think considering that synergy is something that's a big part of what makes him good. His cons are melee, small dice pools, suppression, limited control. So my first thing is that range 2, yes, he can make it range 3, but he really wants those aims to make them marksman. He does not have sharpshooter. That is his biggest weakness to me. You need the aims to make hits, crits, because he has native pierce, but you also maybe need an aim to make it long shot 1. So that synergy with K2 is going to look like, how many aims do I need to just take off a unit or two? And that's where I start to question, is 80 points of K2 and 110 points of Cassian worth maybe killing a model or two after heavy cover? Not only that, but he has to be in range 2, which makes him in danger of melee. And K2 does have a little bit of backline potential with his melee dice pool, but for the most part, I would say that Cassian is very vulnerable to melee. 2 red dice is not going to cut it, and he has no tools to get out of melee once he's in it. You also have limited control. Cassian kind of suffers from the Rogue One release in terms of what he likes to work with. He wants to work with special forces, he wants to give orders to them, and operatives and commanders. So kind of doing like a core unit gun line isn't going to work with him, and so when I say limited control, his orders don't go out to a lot of people. And so that kind of deters you for playing certain styles of lists. But overall, I think Cassian's a great example of a middle-of-the-road character. And I think his cards kind of follow along with that. So, Crackshot, Gunslinger, at the end of his activation, he may gain 1 suppression and a standby. This is essentially giving him the potential to triple his offense if everything goes right. If your Gunslinger goes right, and your standby gets popped off, that's really amplifying that minimum damage we're talking about. So Crackshot is a very good card, but you do kind of want to get that standby out of it as much as you can, or as many games as you can. Last Stand is essentially him giving it to the commanders or operatives. They get Indomitable, 1 aim, 1 dodge, 1 suppression for each wound token they have, up to 3. Cassian works well with other heroes. That's going to be a good part about the Rebels, is they can really work together as commanders and kind of amplify each other. So, good little hero hammer card, and, works good with K2 as well. So, don't necessarily have to run anything in specific, but maybe not that amazing, and I think it's a good example of his limited order control. So, Volunteer Mission, this is his, I can give everybody orders card. They get Recover in Danger Sense 1, and can also get a suppression token. This can be good with like Mandalorians, essentially increasing the red saves, same thing with K2, but for the most part, just a pretty common middle-of-the-road card. Nothing too crazy going on there. Then we have Han Solo. I give him a C+. I think he's a little bit better than middle of the road. I think him and Chewie's combo is a little bit stronger, but we can see low profile, Gunslinger, Sharpshooter 1, Steady, and Uncanny Luck 3. 6 health, 2 courage, search to crit. Pros, he's got great range 2. I think he's arguably the best range 2 commander in the game. With a few exceptions, at least the best in terms of Rebels. Like I said, Chewie's really good. I think they work really well together. And I think they work together compared to Cassian and K2 kind of working to make Cassian better. I think Han and Chewie work to make each other better. But he's got some pretty interesting command cards that can be a little tricky for certain players and kind of disrupt what they're trying to do in a game. I like that his pistol is Pierce 2 red. To me, that's a very big thing. Sharpshooter 1, so you're probably taking 2 models off, but if you do get an open shot, I mean, you're kind of guaranteeing yourself 2 kills, which is very nice. Once again, cons melee. Chewie's also a decent backliner, but 3 white dice isn't going to cut it when someone does dive into you, so that's just something you have to be extra careful about. And that really takes the value out of Han Solo, is when he's in melee, they're preventing that good range 2 profile that he has, and now you're resorting to 3 white dice. And that's just not going to cut it when you're paying 100 points for one model. Once again, small dice pools, so you have to kind of ask yourself if those points equate to killing maybe 2 models a turn, and you still got to get in range and avoid melee and hope turn 6 you're not dead. So that's always my biggest question with all these Rebel commanders is, are those little dice pools worth it? In the long run, probably, but the question is, are you getting that value throughout the game? As for his cards, his 1 pip, or in this case a 0 pip, is really strong because he's the only character that can guarantee you going first 100% of the time. He gets an aim and a dodge as well. And with Teamwork on Chewie, he's also giving them an aim and a dodge. Reckless Diversion, when an enemy unit performs an attack, it must attack a trooper unit that has a face-up order token if able. Also a really good card, can kind of help you with a lot of objective play when you're, recovering the supplies and running away. Hey, I'm going to divert attention to this trooper and Han, which can be really good. And then Change of Plans. I've seen this card used really well by friends and opponents. Essentially kind of denying a card for a round. You do have to discard this, so I feel like it can kind of lose value in the sense that you're, just straight up losing the card. But I've seen that value outweighed by the just denied strategy that you're kind of putting on your opponent, which makes it really worth it. And I think this card has a lot of value against units like Yoda trying to recover his next card and play them in order, and you pop this card and it's like, yeah, I'm going to screw up your entire thing you do with your 220 point unit. And that's huge. But that's kind of the thing, is it can feel situational at times. Like, a lot of players are going to be like, okay, I'll just play my other 1 pip, right? And more importantly, if you don't want to actually discard it, you're just getting Assault. Like, you're giving it to Han and 2 other units. Which isn't bad by any means, but, very minimum effect otherwise. Overall, I like Han. I like his range 2 profile, and he kind of feels a little bit more like a commander. If I did have to give him some upgrades, I would probably give him Up Close and Personal, Improvised Orders, and probably skip out on the gear slot for the most part if I had to, but you could do like Cash Dodge so he could get a dodge as well. And if I had to do Cassian, I would probably give him Duck and Cover, maybe Hunter if you're running the Sniper, but for the most part, just anything that can generate tokens to kind of give K2 tokens as well. It's kind of the same gimmick with both of these guys. But moving on to Jyn, I give her a C+, and I can completely understand if someone were to argue her B- or B. I just don't know how valuable that Courage 3 is going to be in the Rebel faction. And especially with the units Jyn wants to play with, because Danger Sense is almost more dangerous now, unironically. I just don't see a good reason to, be taking more suppression than you have to, but she is the Courage 3 commander for the Rebels. And I know there's another one, but we're not going to be using him. She is honestly really cheap at 90 points. She's got Quick Thinking, Danger Sense 4, Infiltrate, not Covert Ops. Infiltrate, that's huge. Nimble, really good. Sharpshooter 1, yes. And she has a built-in melee tool, which kind of helps out with that range 2 problem I keep discussing. She gets a free pistol. This is what I like about Jyn the most, is I genuinely think you can just strap on the A180 and pick whichever one you want. I don't think either of them are bad, and I think you can just run a 90-point Jyn, and you can get that Courage 3 bubble and the things you're looking for. I also completely think it's reasonable to bring Jyn's blaster. It's only 5 points because she brings it down, but she is Courage 3, tricky to kill. Danger Sense 4 is no joke. Nimble is no joke. She's very versatile. Well, I shouldn't say very versatile. She's versatile enough for 90 points. With the 4 black dice and the pistol. Sharpshooter 1, Search to Crit, Pierce built in. Once again, very small dice pools, but I do see value in that due to her cheaper cost. Cons, she's kind of meh at everything. Like, yes, she's cheap. Yes, she's versatile. But she kind of reminds me of Callus, just not as bad in terms of, the cost effectiveness that we're talking about. I think that she is also, really good for the Rebels to have that Courage 3. I just don't know if that's enough for her, because that pistol's maybe killing one, maybe two if you get, a good shot in. For the, baton, I really don't know how much craziness you're going to cause with that, right? Like, if you don't have enough dice to make crazy things happen, you can't really expect them to. So, she's not going to win you the game, but she can definitely have an impact. She can definitely make plays. And kind of what brings her back from being a B tier character for me, or getting the grade of B rather, is her cards. I'm not saying they're bad. I think her 1-pip's good. It allows her to activate when an enemy unit range 1 to 2 before they even do their rally step. She can get a suppression to attack or perform a free move action. And she has charge during the round, so that's really good for her to utilize that. Can kind of give her 2 actions, and more importantly, deny a lot of outplay from your opponents, and just allow you to do kind of some tricky things. So I actually really like her 1-pip. I have nothing against it. Trust goes both ways. Jin and 1 Trooper, she gets Inspire 2, and Teamwork with that person. This can be really good. Like Cassian K2, you give it to K2, and then you have 3 units generating the same token because they all have Teamwork. Inspire 2, yeah, I mean, you guys know how I feel about suppression at this point. I think it's going to win or lose a lot of games, so Inspire 2's no joke. But you are super hyper-focused on where these tokens are going most of the time, so I feel like for a turn, if I'm the opponent, or if I'm playing this army, I'm just going to ignore it and go for something else. Like, she really influences a certain part of your list, but she's not really helping everyone, right? Like, my Rebel Vets are still in danger because they don't have a dodge from an order, or they don't have this, or they don't have that, right? Like, maybe we're giving this to K2, and the other 8 units on the board don't have an order, and they don't have anything going for them. But, still a good card, and it can definitely have a purpose. So, I'm not really trying to diss on it, just kind of trying to describe the minimum impact it can have as well. Complete the mission. 3 troopers, she gets low profile. When they're issued an order, they can get a suppression. And if they have the face-up order token, can't become panicked or suppressed during its activation. That is key. At the end of the unit's activation, it may remove 1 suppression token, which is good. But for the most part, I feel like this card is just as dangerous as it can be helpful. If you know what you're doing, you're not going to really put yourself in too much danger. But let's say your Pathfinders have 4 suppression, and you want to use this ability so you don't have to worry about rolling. So you move up, you shoot with them, cool, you're on an objective. At the end, you may remove the 1 suppression token, awesome. It takes 1 shot to put you back at panic level. And if you're trying to gain that suppression, get danger sense rolling, get other things rolling, ignore suppression, that is less white dice you're rolling on your rally step because you're not rolling them at all. And so anytime we can do that, I think is good. So I feel like this card is really a hindrance almost, but I think it definitely still has a purpose. But for the most part, I think the changes do hurt this card significantly. Lando. I'm a little biased towards Lando. I like him, but I don't think I could bring him anything above a C. He's got contingencies, which allows you to bring 3 extra cards and swap them out as the game goes on. He's got Covert Ops, which unfortunately got nerfed because you still need a commander now to be able to do that. You've got Flaw, which isn't the worst flaw by any means. I really don't even think it impacts you that much, but it can kind of mess you up for a turn. Sharpshooter 2, double thumbs up for me. Uncanny Luck 2, yes, also good. 6 health, 2 courage, Search to crit, and Search to defend on white dice. So his sniper pistol, range 3, which I think is very unique. I like that he's range 3. Because of this, I think he actually feels like a commander. I think he can sit back, take a shot with his pistol, kill something, maybe even 2 things if he gets 2 hits because he has Sharpshooter 2. And he can infiltrate as well. I think he's got good, once again, versatility. I think a lot of these Rebel commanders kind of sit in the same areas. But to me, Lando does feel like a commander that is trying to support other units, right? I don't think he's specifically trying to help any type of list. I think he can work with a lot of different things. And because of that, I really like him. His cons is, once again, small dice pool. I know I keep saying it, but when you start getting to the 100s, like we can compare that to Rebel Vet unit. That's maybe 75 points when you add the heavy to it, and we got 4 white, 4 black. Search to hit with critical 2, and that dice pool has more potential to kill things and make things happen. So when we're looking at these Rebel commanders, we're looking for playmaking, and we're looking for good cards to further those units' progression. Because in some other factions, our commanders are, Anakin Skywalker that can support, play those cards, and add big dice pools to the game. But, of course, they're going to cost more. So, the question is that cheaper unit, aka Lando and the Rebel Commanders, cost efficient? So that's something we have to ask ourselves. As for his abilities, he has Idiot's Array. I love the name of the card. He gets Gunslinger, Marksman, and then if he has a 3-pip, gets 1 aim, 1 dodge, a 3-pip, and a 2-pip, he gets 3 aims, 3 dodges. And then if he has a 3-pip, 2-pip, and a 1-pip in there, he actually gets 3 aims and 3 dodges off that one. But you get it. It's a descending order, so, 1 3-pip in the discard, a 3-pip, and a 2-pip, you get 2, and then a 3-pip, a 2-pip, and a 1-pip, you get 3. Ace up his sleeve, this has 2 different options. You can give an order to a unit and it gets a dodge or a standby. Those standbys can be really good, even on Lando, because he has that sharpshooter too. Or, before drawing from your pool, you can discard this card to issue an order to Lando, or a friendly unit range 1 to 2 of him, and then activate that unit. So, a pretty good little tricky play. I really like it. And then this is a really good card to me, all in. Everybody at range 3 gets 2 observation tokens, and before he rolls dice, if he gets 1 natural block or 1 natural crit, he can add 2 of the matching result. And so if you're using those observation tokens and things like an aim, because it's after the reroll dice step, you can really almost guarantee yourself a crit and then get 3 crits. So I think that card's huge, and I think it supports your whole army, kind of adding to that commander idea. I think Ace up his sleeve also adds to that commander idea, and the Idiot's Array just kind of really amps up that lackluster dice pool that we're talking about. You can Marksman him up, get 4 crits. Fierce 1, I mean, that's probably going to be 3 to 4 units dead, right? So, really like Lando. Kind of biased. If we had to go back to him, I would say for commands, maybe like improvised orders, any type of courage negation. You could maybe put Overwatch on him, but I'm not a big fan of Overwatch when you only get 1 standby opportunity, but it's something to consider. And then gear, with Climb, I'd usually put Scale on some of these dudes, but I don't really think he needs that. You could put Unhindered on there if you really wanted to, but, Cash Dodge if you really feel like it. For Jins, you probably do Improvised Orders as well. It's a very Rebel card due to their lackluster order control. Probably Duck and Cover for the training slot. For the gear slot, you could probably do like Unhindered as well. Just kind of ensure that she can move up. You could also really consider Cash Dodge on her because she has Nimble. I think that's a very good card for her, actually. But moving on from those two, we have Leia. And once again, Leia's just going to get a straight up C. Just take cover 2, which is, hey, 2 dodges out. Inspire 2, 2 suppression off. Nimble, Sharpshooter 2, we like that. 6 health, 2 courage. Search to crit, search to defend, and for 80 points. And she's got a good little nice range 2 blaster. She somehow hits harder in melee than Han, which I think is hilarious. But maybe that's appropriate, right? But she is a great support. She's got a nice little shot. Why not? Nimble, and she's cheap. Like, she really is cheap for what you're getting. But she's getting old. She's courage 2. If there was ever a commander in the Rebel forces that should be courage 3, it's Leia. It makes sense canonically, and it makes sense in game. Like, she should be the gunline commander that is supporting those units and keeping them in the fight. So if she was courage 3, I might even bump her all the way up to like a B+. Like, I really think she would influence the faction success a lot. But I don't know, like, she just doesn't really impress me besides that. Besides the fact that she's cheap and she's just a good support, I mean, she's just getting kind of old. Like, she's been around for a while now, and these keywords just don't make as much impact as they used to. And the biggest thing is that dodges in the Rebel faction have really died down, and that's kind of what she's looking to support, is those types of lists. So if we're looking at those command slots, like normally I would give her Vigilance, and heck, you could give her Inspire 4 with Inspiring Presence, but I don't know if it's worth it to put 12 points on for Vigilance. So Cash Dodge on her too, because of Nimble if you really want to, but I think she's fine just the way she is. I like her cards, but they kind of just define the definition of C tier cards, or in this case, a C on your report card, right? But she gets this 1 pip, which I think is pretty strong. A bombardment, 3 different attacks, on 3 different units with 2 red dice, immune to deflect, and with her sharpshooter 2, she's actually getting those both through every time, unless there's a dodge or something. Good card, especially to initiate with, or wait till the late game to kind of throw your opponent off. No Time for Sorrows. When a friendly trooper is issued an order, it may perform a speed 1 move. May not look like the craziest card, but I've seen it used really well to deny certain engagements, melee, to get on the objective. You'd be surprised how much a speed 1 move can affect the game, especially when it is when they are issued the order. So you don't have to worry about roll-offs or anything like that, like you get to do it when you give the order, which I think is huge. Somebody has to save our skins, Leia in 2 units. After Leia activates, you may choose a friendly unit in range 1 to 2 with the face-up order token and activate it. Essentially allowing you to go 1 and then 2. And this can be pretty devastating to your opponent, but for the most part, Leia's a support. Should be giving out those dodges and suppression, so you're most likely just getting the support tokens on the field, helping out your units, and then going with something that can actually hit hard. You're very rarely going to go with Leia, shoot something, kill it, or maybe not kill it, and then use something to try to finish it off, right? I've seen it happen, but for the most part, she's using that card to support, and then you also get to attack, rather than having to dig in your order pool like, oh man, I need to do something before my opponent shoots me. But what I've learned is the best defense is a good offense in this game, as in many things in life, so kind of my biggest thing about Leia is she's just not doing a lot on the offensive end. She's trying to sit back and support a rebel gun line, which isn't very defensive in the first place, so she improves that, but things just can kind of out-offense the rebel gun lines. And since you can't really spam dodges anymore, I don't really think you can hold up with just someone like Leia. Next up, we have Rey Skywalker. Oh, Commander Luke. Yeah, I don't... Like, if you have this dude and you want to play him, great. The only reason I give him an F-, like, bottom of the barrel, is there's Operative Luke. Like, if you love Luke, you love the character, like, just go play Operative Luke. You're going to have a better time. You're going to be playing the same character. You're going to have all these keywords and more. You're not going to have this dinky little pistol, but trust me, that's going to be a good thing for the most part. But we can look at his card. Jump 1, charge, deflect, immune pierce, standard Jedi stuff. Doesn't have Master of the Force, easily the biggest issue off the get-go. 6 health, sure, I guess. Courage 3. There's something. Courage 3, right? That's what we're talking about. It's what the Rebels don't have access to do. So, Colton, why are you giving this, or Legion, why are you giving this, such a bad rating if he's got Courage 3? And I don't think he's worth it for the points. I think you might as well just put Jin if that's your reasoning is, hey, I think Suppression's going to be really bad, so I'm going to make sure to get Luke because he has Courage 3. In that case, just take Jin. Or take different upgrades that allow you to negate suppression, because Luke is not going to be your answer. Okay? His lightsaber also has 1 less than Operative Luke, so that's a big bummer for me. And this pistol. Oh my goodness, this pistol. He doesn't have Sharpshooter, doesn't have anything like that. He does have Surge to crit, so maybe you miraculously get a crit, Pierce 2, cool. But for the most part, you're probably not even getting a hit with that thing, and I would just recommend you continue moving towards your opponent anyways, especially if you're already at range 2. But I just don't really know what you would even put on him. You obviously force push, but burst of speed maybe, force reflexes. He doesn't have Master of the Force, so I just feel like every point you put into him beyond what he already is just making him worse. But if you like him, please play him. Or, if you like him, and you kind of fear what I've said, take it easy, because there is a much better version of Luke, which is Operative Luke. And guess what? This. Operative Luke also gets access to all these cards. We'll talk about them in the Operative video a little bit more, because I don't even think Commander Luke validates bringing such good cards. In other words, even if he could take them, I don't think they make him any better. I mean, he can take them, but I don't think they make him any better. I don't think they amplify him enough to bring him out of the dirt that he is in. But attacking twice card, Son of Skywalker, free action to utilize your enemy's units or your own units to go again. Awesome, full of surprises, super defensive card. Turn to the Jedi, anti-suppression, dodge. I am a Jedi, no attacking anyone near me, and my ally is Force, 2 dodges. But we'll talk about these cards more later on. I just don't think Commander Luke is any better with or without these. So, Rebel Officers, last but not least. I give him a B. He's just efficient and cheap. I don't really think you can go wrong with him. In other words, if you put him in your list, I don't think I would ever say, why do you have a rebel officer? Why have you done this? I think he increases your chances of winning. I think he's cost efficient. I think that he's going to work well with a lot of different things that you're looking to play with. So, whatever reasons, I think he's good. So, you could probably bring Vigilance with him, portable scanners as well. That was the old school lineup, but I think that makes him a little too costly and makes him even a better bounty target. He's also one of those units that I'm like, please be careful with if your opponent has a bounty, because they will dive bomb you and try to one-shot you. So just be careful, because I didn't put that on there, but he is a good bounty target, so just be careful. Oh boy. So I'm going to talk about the summary now. I'm going to start doing this as well as kind of sum up the options you have. To me, the Rebel commanders are some of the best internally balanced options. In other words, when I go to my shelf and I'm like, what Rebel commander do I want to play with? Everyone besides Luke comes to my mind. And what I mean by that is I can mix and match. If I want to play Lando with Jyn, I don't feel bad. If I want to play Cassian, K2, Han, Chewie as my crazy hero hammer list, I don't feel bad. If I want to play Jyn with Cassian and K2, I feel great. If I want to play Leia with Lando, it's fine. Because they're all relatively cheaper. And those two characters make up for some of the better, more outstanding characters that we're going to talk about in these other factions by being cheaper. But, to me, none of them really stand out. I don't think putting any of them in your list necessarily gives you a super increased chance of winning. I think that it offers a lot of diversity in your list building and what characters you want to play together, and you can mix and match. And I think that's fun. I think it's really fun, and I think all these characters are fun because they're playmakers, they're heroes you remember from the shows, they're well represented from the shows by what they can do on the table. But I think their biggest issues are just getting older. You can look at any of them, and while they don't cost the same as something like a Bounty Hunter, but like IG-11 and 88 are a little bit closer, their dice pools are just slightly bigger, and I think they have a little more potential to kill things, which, I think would be negated a little bit if the command cards from these Rebel commanders separated that gap. If they were truly commanding the Rebel forces to get better. Like, I don't see an Iden tax strike in the Rebel commanders, which makes sense because they're not quite as expensive as her. But all of the Rebel commanders just kind of seem middle of the road to me. None of them stand out, and I think statistically, if we were to look at tournaments in the past, none of these commanders have ever really stood out in terms of, wow, this commander is winning all the time, or this one is as well, especially recently. So I think as time goes on, we're going to see more and more commanders that just kind of outclass these. But if you were looking for some fun options, I think the Rebels got it good. I think every time that I go to make a Rebel list, I've got at least one list for each commander, and then I've got plenty of lists where they kind of intertwine and work together. Like K2, Jyn, and Cassian, absolutely. It's a great Rogue One list, and a lot of people are going to find that thematic, and they're going to find it fun, and you're going to find they can work together. So I don't really necessarily think any of the Rebel commanders are bad options. So I think you, as a Rebel player, can look at your different options, and you can say, oh man, I really like Lando, he's one of my favorite characters, buy Lando. If you like Leia, buy Leia. Play Leia. Whatever, right? So I'm not going to tell you like, hey, you need to play Leia, she's really good right now. So that's both a good thing and a bad thing. But Rebel commanders, for the most part, very internally balanced in the grand scheme of the game, just middle of the road. But that's all we have. Some closing thoughts. I have linked my good friend in his channel. It's called Jerry's Game Workshop. You guys should check it out if you ever want to see people actually play the game. I'm even on there a couple times. He also has a great Etsy shop, I believe, and other websites that you can go to find his products that he makes. He uploads videos of battle reports, and I think he just released a buying guide. But you guys should definitely go check him out. He's a good friend of mine. So that's going to be all for today. We'll probably do CIS next, but the game plan is to do this every Friday. And if you guys would like another video throughout a week, specifically like maybe when LVO is over, saying, hey Colton, kind of like what you had to say, maybe we would like you to analyze LVO lists, and I would love to do that. I'd love to take the top 8 lists and say, yes, this is why this list is good, this is why this list is successful. But for the most part, we're going to continue this series for sure, the report card series, until we get everything. Okay? We're going to do it every Friday, and I'm going to put them in different categories. So for instance, one is going to be all the bounty hunters, one is going to be all the operatives, and we'll probably be done faster than you know it. But I hope you guys enjoy. As always, if you guys have any criticism, nice comments, whatever you got for me, please leave it down there. I'm going to keep trying to get better. I already got tons of feedback from the last video. As you can see, we've completely revised everything and kind of went into more description. Okay? I should also be getting a mic sooner rather than later. That's a little bit better than this one. So I really hope to see you guys keep coming back, and I hope you guys enjoy. You guys have a good day.